Welcome to Gridlock, Engineering for the Real World. I'm Dr. Paul Moses, an electrical engineer, educator, researcher based in Oklahoma. Throughout my career, I've worked alongside researchers, engineers, utility professionals, and policymakers to better understand one of the most important engineering systems ever built, the electrical power grid. Every time you flip a switch, charge an electric vehicle, connect a new data center, or integrate renewable energy into the grid, we're relying on an incredibly complex system that most people never think about. Behind every reliable source of electricity are difficult engineering challenges, decisions, economic realities, technological innovation, and public policy, all balancing competing priorities. This podcast is about those real-world trade-offs. In each episode, I'll be joined by leading experts from across engineering, energy, government, industry, academia, and many others to discuss the challenges shaping our energy future. We'll explore topics such as grid reliability, resilience, affordability, flexibility, infrastructure modernization, renewable energy integration, the role of nuclear power, artificial intelligence, electrification, and the technologies that will define tomorrow's electric grid. Conversations begin here in Oklahoma, but we also examine national policy, international developments, and the global engineering challenges facing modern power systems. So, whether you're an engineer, student, utility professional, policymaker, researcher, or someone just curious about how our world is powered, this podcast is designed to bring thoughtful, evidence-based conversations to the forefront. We'll move beyond headlines and explore what really works, what doesn't, and why engineering decisions matter. Thank you for joining me as we explore the technology, ideas, and people building the future of our energy. I'm Dr. Paul Moses, and this is Gridlock, Engineering for the Real World. Let's get started. Hello and welcome. My name is Paul Moses. I'm an electrical engineer by training, and today I just want to have a brief discussion about electrical power grids. That's an area that I have been involved in my academic and industrial career. Throughout my career, I've had the opportunity and the privilege to work with many students and academic experts, scientists, engineers, utility managers, policymakers on exploring and trying to develop solutions to power grid problems. I think you can agree with me that electrical power has become one of the lifeblood essential attributes of modern life. It underpins the economy, health, our prosperity, quality of life. It touches everything. And this podcast was really prompted by recent escalation in our energy use, particularly in the electrical field. And for example, today is going to be 100-odd degree Fahrenheit day, and that's going to have an impact on us. My utility bill this summer is going to be quite high, and many others. And even in Oklahoma, where it's touted to be the least or lowest cost of living, we do have quite high electricity prices compared to a few years ago. And if this is the issue or situation in Oklahoma, you can imagine what's happening elsewhere in more populous states like California and other big cities. They're also experiencing even more financial burden offered by or caused by electrical energy use. And so affordability of electricity is a very important topic that I believe, as an academic expert interested in developing technologies, we should be conscious of. And also making sure that we're not pricing out people from our community from having the dignity in their life to turn on a toaster or have cooling in their house in a hot day like today. So there's so many societal impacts that we need to discuss, and not just the technology and what we're going to do. Indeed, the grid is under a lot of technical stresses. We have a lot of legacy equipment on the grid, equipment that's been put in there with the hope that it'll last 30, 40 plus years, and they're not even getting those kind of lifetimes out of it because, quite frankly, they did not anticipate. And the enormous growth pattern that we've seen, particularly in the last decade or so, when we're seeing new forms of technologies. I mean, back in the 2000s and 90s, it was the air conditioning boom, and now electric vehicles and now data centers and AI and various other appliances that we are become accustomed to in society to use. So we have a higher standard of living than we did, say, 50 years ago. So we are per household using a lot more energy, and we're used to that. So how is the utility going to manage this unprecedented growth? And that comes into the realm of grid modernization that you might have heard being talked about. And indeed, on your electricity bill, they may, in fact, I've seen one on my bill saying we are increasing this charge because we're doing grid modernization. And so we want to understand what that is. And we will be talking with some professionals that will unpack that. Because on the utility side, they are under an enormous challenge to update this legacy grid that we inherited from the late 19th century. It originated, and a lot of the equipment is on the grid's being used well beyond its intended lifetime, and it takes money and labor to upgrade that, and that translates into additional cost. So there is that challenge, and how do we not create a white elephant if we are going to transform this grid, which a lot of nations in this world are undertaking to transform this grid, do a complete upgrade to be ready for not just meeting current needs, which we're struggling, but anticipated needs decades down the track into the 22nd century. A lot of investment decisions in the past on our infrastructure, not just the electrical grid, have really filtered down from the top, federal level or government level, power corporation, boardrooms, making these decisions. And but lately, there is an involvement at the community level, and I believe that's what's needs to be promoted. That it should be a bottom-up approach. What does our community want, and do they understand? Okay, if they want this, what is that going to cost to have that quality of life or reliability that they need? And so often policies are made without enough utility, without enough community involvement. So we will be discussing these important matters with stakeholders in upcoming episodes, as well as contentious issues about what energy mix should comprise our generation portfolio, like where do we get our energy from. So today, looking at my data here, that in Oklahoma, we're part of the Southwest Power Pool, SPP, which spans from North Dakota all the way down to Oklahoma in the central part of the U.S. And we are getting our energy at this moment from about 34% coal, 40% natural gas, and 15% wind, although that fluctuates. Some days the wind is as high as 80, 90%. And then fewer, smaller resources like solar and hydro, which are below 5%, and nuclear. So there is a lot of discussion about what energy technology should we invest in, as well as energy storage, which must complement some of these resources that are intermittent. So, and these are decisions that are going to have long-ranging impacts for into the next century. And I want to conclude by saying that we would like to have a free-flowing discussion with all stakeholders, not just high-level authorities, but even with the community, general public. I think they need to be let in on some of the thinking that's happening in the decision-making of where the roadmap for our power grid and where it's headed, and will it serve the community at large in an affordable, sustainable, reliable manner. And we will touch on all these topics in forthcoming talks. I just want to round out by saying thank you, and I hope you will enjoy the upcoming series and episodes, and would welcome your feedback, and feel free to try and reach out to me. Thanking you. Have a good day.